Mental health. As I say those words, what do you feel? Sit back, look inside, and somebody says mental health. What are your thoughts? If I were to ask, do you suffer from mental health? What would your reply be? And to go further, is it an illness or part of human existence? What would your answer be? Just to introduce myself, my name's Clive Spencer. At the age of 51, I've only just come to know the truth about mental health. I've spent the last 6 years delving deeper into this world known by these two words. I've struggled to maintain my mental well-being and mental fitness. The fact is, I was never shown how to regulate or manage. I was never shown how to maintain my mental fitness and how important mental fitness was in my life. I used to think it was an illness. Perceived as a weakness. The fact is, majority of people are suffering from mental health, and they suffer from mental health on a daily basis. Issues that affecting on their daily life stresses and struggles. While a minority are caused by illness, mental health is part of human existence. We all have it. Let me ask you, what is the biggest stress in your life? What stops you from living the life you want? What holds you back? It could be many things. What's your biggest life stress? Money? Relationships? As I sit here, I'm drawn to ask you, who is the most important person in your life? What answer would you give? Family? Wife? Kids? Mother? Partner? What's the truth? Who is the most important person in your life? And of course, you should be answering me, as in yourself. You should put yourself first before anybody else, but we're not taught that. If you put someone else first, then you are wrong. The most important person in your life needs to be you. How can you help somebody if you can't help yourself? Other factors affecting your mental fitness include changing circumstances, work life, home life, medical issues, friends, social scenarios, food and nutrition, vitamins and minerals, hormones, and medicine. By no means am I telling you to not take medicine. You've been prescribed medicine to treat some illness, but I'm just giving you an idea that your mental fitness can be affected by many things in life. For years, I used to care for everyone else, put everyone else's needs first. I never spoke out in fear of hurting somebody or someone's feelings, always looking for something to make me happy, always trying to fit in, feel loved, feel good enough. For a long time, I was scared, filled with fear and anxiety, overwhelmed with chatter and inner conversation that were usually negative. But it was all in my head. I didn't want to tell anyone. I didn't want to tell anyone, fearing they would see me as different, as a basket case, as a fruit case, as a individual who has mental illness. And the stigma used to be not to be around them people. We have conversations in our heads. We spend 1/3 and 1/2 of our waking hours not living in the present. And what do we do during that time? We are cruising. We're on cruise control. We're talking to ourselves. It is an estimated that people have 40,000 to 60,000 conversations a day in their own head. The inner dialogue is our ability to silently use language to reflect our lives. The inner voice has many names: thoughts, self talk, mind talk, inner villain, chatter. You all know what I mean. That inner voice that can cause us to self doubt, especially when you're feeling like everything is going against you. The self talk, the mind talk has been part of human existence since the start of time. It is part of the bodily warning system, triggered by unwanted events known as life wobbles or life shocks. Once you learn to notice and understand the importance of these moments, you can start to take responsibility and live the life you want. Notice the one word: responsibility. Rather than ruminating, worrying, and becoming overwhelmed by fear and emotions that cause us to become stuck in the negative cycle, by understanding the fundamentals of the mind, body, and spirit and energy, we can turn this remarkable tool, our inner voice, from being a curse to a blessing. Life shocks or life wobbles or the fuck it moments. You know what I meant? The fuck it moments is spelled Feckit. It's the Irish version. That happened to us every day. They come and go. But once you learn to notice them, you can stop. You can connect. Seek the truth. And choose the outcome. Rather than distract and avoid, which causes you to feel overwhelmed with emotions, leading to ruminating and worrying. And doing things to avoid and distract. Mental fitness, mental well-being are not taught. And this is a problem. We're taught to care for everyone else rather than ourselves. Many scientists believe that the language is a tool that helps us navigate the world. Our ability to use language not only to communicate with others, but to communicate with ourselves provides us with a survival advantage. This is a survival mechanism. It's an incredible problem solving device. At the most basic end of the spectrum, our inner voice is part of what we call the verbal working memory system. It's a basic feature of the human mind that helps us keep verbal information active in our heads. Our inner voice also lets us stimulate and plan. So before coming on here, I found myself overwhelmed by negative mind talk. Don't be a fool. Nobody wants to listen to this garbage. What do you know about psychology? You're not a psychologist. You haven't got a degree. And other thoughts coming in directly behind them. All trying to keep me from doing the video. These thoughts overwhelmed me. My energy levels dropped. And I became distracted by my avoidance behaviors. For instance, my avoidance behaviors or my behaviors, I find myself thinking of ways to distract myself. What behaviors will give me that quick fix? As this mind talk grows stronger, I find myself going to the fridge, driven by behavior. I have used so many times in my life and in my past. When I want to avoid and distract myself from those voices, I turn to impulsive eating or some other quick fix. Just before reaching out and grabbing either a bar of chocolate or something unhealthy, I stopped myself. I stopped myself and connected. I focused. Took 3 breaths, connected and looked inwards. I find myself doing a clarity process, a process to manage the triggers and look at the life shocks. What is the life shock? What is the truth? Standing in front of a camera, sharing with the world my opinions and the thought of being judged. That's the trigger. One of my biggest triggers is dreading being judged, as it makes me fearful of not being good enough or being seen as a fraud. When the truth is, I'm not perfect. I've messed up in my past. But I'm now taking responsibility. Now think about the last time you wanted to reach for a treat or a late night snack. Or you wanted the last cigarette, the last drink. And then thought, I don't need it. I'll regret it. Our inner voice sometimes steps in. The temptation becomes overwhelming. Go on. Everything will be all right after. And we give in. can start an internal fight where you feel even worse after you've taken the drink, taken the drugs, took the mind-altering substance. And anything can become a mind-altering substance when you are numbing out or you're trying to quieten the voices in our head. But the biggest thing is, what was the trigger? What was the trigger? What were you avoiding or distracting yourself from? When such mind talk takes hold, it makes an incredible hard to focus. How many times have you tried to focus, tried to stop yourself? When the mind talk, self-talk takes hold, it actually consumes our attention. Mind talk can also create friction in relationships because you keep discussing your problems repeatedly without being a good listener to others. It can make us more irritable and lead to anger, depression, or even deeper issues like resentment. For a long time, I couldn't go forward because I suffered with resentment. Resentment is a deeper anger. Where you potentially cut yourself off from the world. You find yourself blaming everyone and everything rather than looking inwards and seeing the truth. Mind talk can have severe negative physical health effects. You've probably heard that stress kills. It's not entirely true. A stress response is typical. It's a typically adaptive but can become problematic when it is persistent over time. This is what mind talk does. It keeps the stress response active long after the initial stressor has ended, which can lead to chronic issues such as cardiovascular disease, chronic inflammation, and even cancer. However, the good news is that there are many techniques and tools available to regulate and manage your mind talk by learning to notice the body's slight shifts in energy. Noticing your behavior patterns can help. Many people create rituals, which is an ordered sequence of behaviors that they perform the same way each time, giving them a sense of order and control. A bit like OCD when I think about it. For example, if you look at boxing, any professional sportsman has a routine they go through before they take center stage. You may have developed routines where you actually center yourself before you go and do something. An example is Rafael Nadal has made it public knowledge, commented that managing the voices inside his head is the hardest part of playing tennis. A lot of times you've got to sort out the mental aspect of something. You might be physically fit. You may be the fittest man in the world. But if you're not mentally within the game, you don't understand yourself, then you're going to lose. Rafael Nadal has formulated rituals to cope during his breaks, where the mind can run off, where you can be easily distracted. He needs to stay focused. So he goes over to his bench, picks up his water bottle, takes a sip from one water bottle, places it back, then from another water bottle, and places them all back exactly where he picked them up from. This is a diagonal to the court, and he positions them in a certain place. It's a ritual. Helps him manage his mind talk, helps him manage his mental focus. Remember, there are many tools and techniques to help manage mind talk, self-talk. The real challenge is in developing an understanding of the mind, body, spirit, and energy, because they all work in unison. And the next biggest thing is to do the work. Practice noticing, practice connecting, practicing your clarity, your forgiveness process. Actually focusing on processes that you've established or rituals. Then you become the person you desire, because you start understanding yourself. You start understanding the principles of the universe. Are you weaker for experienced mind talk, self-talk? Are you weaker for having voices in your head? Are you weaker for speaking up about your mental well-being and fitness? When somebody asks you, how are you doing? How are you feeling? How do you respond? Do you tell them the truth, or do you just say good, bad? Something I learned on the weekend was a lot of times when people ask us how we're feeling, we actually say good or bad as a reply. We never actually tell them the truth. I'm feeling excited. Oh, I'm feeling a bit down today. I'm struggling. When we just use the good and bad, what we're doing is a throwaway answer. We don't really care. If you cared, you'd actually share where you are in life. So, experiencing mental health, is it a weakness? No, absolutely not. All right. It's part of our human existence. You are human, and this is a natural condition. Managing our mind talk, our self-talk, is indeed a critical part of life. It is an integral part of human existence that we often ignore, avoid, and distract ourselves from being ourselves. We resort to behaviors that do not serve us. If you want something in life, you must change your behaviors, take responsibility, notice the triggers. Notice the life shocks in life. Notice when you are not present and you're sitting in the passenger seat. It's like driving a car. The warning light comes on, which are the emotions, and a lot of times we ignore them and push them away. And it affects us. Remember one thing, and I hear it all the time. Life happens to you, not because of you. Thank you very much, and remember, speak out. If you're suffering yourself, it's okay to be. It's okay to actually speak out and say, I'm struggling. I need help. Love you all. Look after yourselves.